Sorry about that. Someone came to your front door. Sorry for the interruption. Where was I? Well, I don't know either. Oh, right. So what they're able to do with Frank McSwain Jr. being a hacker is when I left McSwain Builders LLC, not the Grooming Gang. I was never part of the criminal organization. I was aware they were doing countertop fraud. I kind of sussed that out just by paying attention. I knew they were doing material swap schemes because I worked in the job sites, and I'm like, well, that is not what we sold. I knew they were doing permit fraud because they kept on getting caught doing permit fraud. I mean, one of these permits that they didn't pay for was $35,000. So basically, they're charging the client $35,000 for the permit, never giving that money to the state, and just pocketing it. They got caught, and they just play it off like it's a clerical error, and that's how it works. And because it's civil crime, the law enforcement can never get involved. So if they were selling, I mean, their profit margins are as much as if a 9-person gang selling meth. Really it is. I used to work with felons. I mean, so I have some idea of what a 9-person meth gang might make. It's about that. So $50,000 to $100,000 per member per year. I mean, they're really bringing in a lot of extra money, criminal cash. Well, the frustrating thing with this has always been, there's two frustrating things about this. First of all is because I'm a disabled veteran, pig trash, all they see is crazy veteran. So I'm articulating reality, and they are saying that's not the case. Let me tell you how this works. So, again, I was being capped on my, I know now how they did it. I didn't at the time, but I know now. Getting capped on my job options, and then a guy named William Bill Clay worked for a company called Real America, calls me out of the blue. I heard you're looking for a job. Now, I knew Bill from one of our remodel jobs, a job where we did where they did a couple different scams. I was never actually profiting from them. But I needed a job, so I went and worked for him. Brendan Bolton also worked for Real America at the time. It's gang membership is what's important. Don't keep track of who he works for, whether or not he's fired or there. They are a gang. Doesn't matter who they're working for, who they're paying taxes working for. It's the criminal organization that is the true elite, who their true allegiance is. So so Bill calls me out of the blue. Hey, I heard you're looking for a job. I need an assistant superintendent. It was like $85,000 a year. It was a lot of money. I knew that Brendan Bolton was a scumbag at the time. I didn't know that they had framed Alex at the time. I didn't know that they intended to kill me or frame me, which they have said in plain English that is their intent. At the time, so I went and worked for Real America. This is why I was calling this pinning, the philosophy, because looking back, okay, so they pinned me down, they have me pinned to my house down, they have access to my house whenever they want here in Rifle. I have gone to the police again and again and again. They call me crazy. They are ignorant pig trash is all they are. So I stopped paying for my house. I quit my job. I mean, why am I paying for a house where I am facilitating their means to frame me? I mean, a firearm was not in my house for an unknown amount of time. And it's a unique firearm. It's a Spanish military, it's a Spanish police officer's pistol by a company called Star. Very unique. Not a lot of those around. It wasn't in my gun safe. But it magically reappears in my garage. Okay, so while I was at Real America, that is when the fun for me began. They threatened my life through a third party. I contacted the police. I was told, we can't do anything about that and you're crazy. Literally, I was told I needed mental health help. All they are is ignorant pig trash. Top to bottom. The hubris of these people will not go unpunished. Period. Get some. At the interview, they stated, we understand how they threatened your life and to make it unactual. Basically, they're saying, yes, your life was threatened. I said, okay, what happens when I catch Jaime the countertop crook in my house? What if I leave and then run back and I catch him and I shoot him? Well, that's murder. Why is it murder? They threatened my life. Well, that won't be admissible in court. I'm willing to test the premise. How about I kill all 9 of them and we have a jury trial? Let's find out what's admissible in court. I think that's a great idea. Is it admissible in the court that he knows that Alex Williamson was framed? Is that admissible? Is it admissible that I had to investigate this myself? Is the interview admissible? I want the interview released, by the way. I want good people to hear what pig trash sound like when they're deflecting a victim away from articulating the nature of their victimization. I used to work for felons. I knew before I called the police and asked to report and try to report their death threat to me, I knew they wouldn't be able to arrest them for it because it's delivered by a third party. The threat was in the form of a story with a couple red flags attached so that when you hang up, you're like, what the hell is that? You put together your own threat based off the story that you're told. It's intentional. It's a threat designed and packaged so that the listener alone, really, that's not true. If I had a recording of it, I could say, okay, this means this and this means this, and then it wouldn't make sense to people. For example, in the story, the contractor, his name is Prophet. There actually is a contractor in the valley named Prophet. But Ryan Williams' call sign while he was in Iraq was Prophet. He is a contractor named Prophet. I got to send him to the State Department because Ryan Williams does State Department contracts. So they need to know they got a Grooming Gang member who might be participating, going overseas. No, that's not a good situation. So basically the threat was that Ryan Williams, who has 8 years experience as a Marine, and 10 years of contracting work for the State Department, is going to kill me if I get out of line. The red line the red line that I was given on the death threat was contacting the clients. What's the first thing I did? I started contacting the clients. What are you going to do? When I worked for Real America, let me tell you how out of hand this stuff gets. So I worked for Real America. I knew that Brendan Bolton, at the time I'm about to speak of, I knew that Brendan Bolton was actively participating in a criminal organization, and he also worked for Real America. Brendan Bolton's job site was all the way in Colorado Springs, and mine was in Snowmass Village. So I didn't have to interact with him all that much. Brendan would have me drive down and cover his job site for him for appointments. I'd get there, I'd get the job site in order, get everyone squared away. I was an assistant superintendent, so I'm kind of running the job, And he'd come back from his appointment and just follow me around, asking me McSwain questions. What do you think about Frank? What are you going to do now? What are you thinking about doing? Trying to pump me for information to get my intent. Using fake relationships is what groomers do. And the whole time I actually knew that Brendan Bolton was part of a criminal organization. So I didn't give him anything. But he's my coworker. After they threatened my life, a few weeks after that is when I got the Alex fell off the map. Even his friends haven't heard from him. I got that threat. Okay. That's when I started investigating. Okay, so not only am I threatened, but this young man I mean, Alex, I don't even, to tell you the truth, I don't even like the young guy. He's kind of a young punk, you know. But he ain't a sex offender. Brendan Bolton framed him. So this framing, by the way, is really this easy. Brendan Bolton has Alex Williamson's trust. Brendan Bolton has Alex Williamson's living situation. Alex Williamson goes to get a hamburger. While he's gone, Brendan Bolton simply does this on Alex Williamson's computer, using information that Frank Swain Jr. gave him as, finding the sting and pretending to be Alex on the sting. And then Brendan induces Alex to go to the place where he's supposed to be meeting underage girls. I haven't spoken to Alex. My suspicion is that what Brendan told him is, hey, if you go here at this time, there's a guy there who will give you a job. But so Alex shows up thinking he's going there for a job, and walks into a police sting with the lawman thinking Alex is meeting underage girls with intent. That is how easy this framing was. That is it. And it's evidential. It's evidential that the messages were sent from Alex's device while he was under Brendan Bolton's control. The framing is patent. It is solid in the sense that it is evidential step by step. And it is known criminal methodology. Again, I was calling this pinning. I thought my problem in the beginning was I was trying to articulate to police a form of criminality they've just never heard of. Well, I never heard nothing like this. Just leveraging fake relationships, and then you don't know that you've been victimized until you get arrested as a sex offender or you're dead. And the whole time it's smiles. They're so nice. They're just here to help. What's the problem? Stop panicking. That is the attitude they take. It is disgusting. So a couple of them have dropped the mask. William Bill Clay dropped the mask. He showed me the real William Bill Clay. I very much want to see him too. I would like to meet him again. Now, it is not flippant for us to go to the U.S. Marshals, because William Bill Clay works for Real America. Real America is a company based out of Ohio. And William Bill Clay is the Colorado branch manager for all of Real America's Colorado operations. Basically, so this grooming gang has subverted an entire portion of an American company called Real America. It is more, so part of that company is more in the grooming gang's control than it is in the owner's control. Fact and verifiable. So while I worked, so I get threatened with Alex felt the map, even his friends haven't heard from him. I start investigating this myself. That is when they sprung this civil suit on me saying I was stalking Jill Johnson. The irony is she's really the only person I didn't have to investigate. She was my boss for 8 months. I know what part she plays. I know what she does for the gang and for the company. I didn't have to investigate her. I knew everything about Jill Johnson already. Everyone else is not so much, but I figured it out. So about a week before this court date, so what these grooming gangs can do is they can produce situations where it's like living in the Truman Show. So my entire employment at Real America was a sham. Real America was I was doing real work for them. I was actually an assistant superintendent, so I was managing jobs as an assistant superintendent. But in essence, they're paying me so that I stay on the job site so that this criminal organization has access to me. Now, my investigation also uncovered that Brendan Bolton is basically their recruiter. So Brendan Bolton recruits this guy, William Bill Clay, into the criminal organization. The William Bill Clay hires Brendan Bolton as his assistant at the time. Here's how they got me this job. So William Bill Clay and Brendan Bolton get another Real America employee fired. They basically just pushed this person out to make space for me so that they can offer me a job. So I started working for Real America. Life's threatened while I'm there. This whole Alex fell at the map, even his friends haven't heard of him. And William Bill Clay, he's just my boss, right? Well, he started in with this, asking me all these McSwain questions, asking me about everybody. And Bill, stop. I'm here to work. Would never do it. I had to cuss him out to get him to stop. I got in his face to where he was actually afraid that I was going to hit him. That's how aggressive I had to be to get him to knock it off. I put the fear of the Almighty in that man. I think he pissed himself off. But I wasn't fired for it. Why did you fire me? You got me pinned. So Jill Johnson and Shay Sweeney used to go to the Real American job site and harass me pretty much weekly, almost daily early on. And William Bill Clay just ended up being close enough to observe it, but never close enough to hear what's going on. But every time he would say, "Don't worry, I saw that too." Well, he's in on it. I asked Bill, so let me go over this real quick. So what Jill Johnson used to do is she used to drive by me either while I'm walking to lunch in Slumhouse Village. This is how I knew they were digitally tracking me. Because her timing on when I would walk to lunch, she would drive by. She did it like 4 times in a week. "Hello, Aaron." Out the window as I'm walking. I can touch you, but you can't touch me. That has been the message they've received. I will unfuck that shit. Absolutely. I will. This criminality is extremely good at preventing the victim from having any services. Jill Johnson is basically just a Harley Weinstein. That's all she is. And she couldn't handle that I wasn't interested in a 61-year-old lady. I mean, I've never been married, and yeah. Now, I've never had any. I said I was a disabled veteran. I am. I suffer from PTSD. I have PTSD, I like to say, actually. And I've never had any shame about talking about my medical health, my mental health, my mental health history. So the Grooming Gang knows everything. So in order to protect myself, so people know what the actual truth is, I'm just going to go through everything. And I have no shame on it. None whatsoever. So I do have PTSD. In OIF-1, I deployed, went to a place called Taji. And I was there for a few weeks. I was a United States Army combat medic. And I got a few critical casualties. And I performed well. And so I had feedback that I not only was trained, but I was also capable and, to be honest, rather gifted at that job. And I did stellar work for my first 2 combat casualties. And then I got a Red Cross message that my mom had been diagnosed with breast cancer. My brother told me that it was a coin flip survival, that it had already metastasized. She had an emergency mastectomy. So the Army offered to send me home on emergency leave. I declined. A major from brigade heard about it, knew one of the soldiers that I had patched up and put on a helicopter with a pulse. And said, "I know who to make the argument to, and I know what argument to make to get you a compassionate reassignment to Southern California so you can be with your mother while she's sick." I declined. I had a job to do. So I stayed. Decisions like that are not cost-free. I've cursed or blessed, depending on how you look at it, with self-awareness in that regard. I always have been. So I knew that I had damaged myself by choosing duty over family. And I felt that snap up here, you know what I mean? So that was the stressor that put me from being in a combat environment, which is stressful enough, to being, this is now PTSD level stuff for me. I have zero shame in saying that because I did it because I got an oath, kept it, did it. So I get diagnosed with PTSD. I have problems sleeping. I start taking Ambien. I get prescribed Ambien by the Army. I took Ambien for most of 20 years. That's how I controlled my sleep schedules. And Ambien has two very insidious side effects if you're using it long term. You know this, but you're only supposed to use Ambien. You don't need to say, but I think it's 6 months. It's about that time, isn't it? Roughly, yeah, give or take. Okay, give or take. You're only supposed to use it for 6 months at a time because if you use it for any longer, you get these long-term effects. And I got 2 of them. That was induced depression and complete loss of emotional feel. I went about 15 years with not feeling any emotion. Everything was philosophical for me. And then a few years ago, when Colorado legalized recreational marijuana, a veteran friend of mine said, hey, I stopped taking that stuff and I smoke pot it once a night, at night, and I sleep like a baby. I tried it, I loved it, it worked. I stopped taking Ambien. I went through 4 days of hell with withdrawals. Ambien's a baby benzo. Baby benzos are one of the few medications that can kill you with withdrawals. That and alcohol, I think, are the 2 main. So I went through 4 days of withdrawals, and I got out of bed after 4 days of withdrawals, and I felt like $1 million, and I could feel it again. So I go to Grand River and Rifle, and I'm telling the physician, yeah, I just kicked Ambien, I'm feeling great, I can feel emotion again. She diagnosed me as bipolar because I went from depressed, no emotion, which is major depression disorder, which was what my disability was for. And that went away, and I went back to being normal. So that discrepancy in personality was, to her mind, a bipolar flip. It wasn't. It was just me getting over the side effects of the medication. Yeah, I'm not bipolar. The VA has thoroughly cleared it. It was actually funny. The nurse practitioner, a psychiatric nurse practitioner at the VA, she says, "Who told you you're bipolar?" And I told her the story. She goes, "You are not bipolar." But this grooming gang, I've told this grooming gang that there is a bipolar diagnosis in my past, even though it's fallacious. So that, this is how these people operate. Because they have had so much surface area with me for so long without me knowing that they're preying upon me, I had no problem ever telling them all the things. Secrets, stuff I don't normally tell people, And yeah, so I'm not bipolar. What I am was recovering from basically 20 years of over-the-counter medication addiction, basically what it was. So as of right now, my only standing diagnosis according to the VA is a PTSD. Still standing, of course. So that's basically my mental health history. I got a fallacious bipolar diagnosis, not bipolar. You know what's annoying about that is the physician had, by policy, 10 minutes to make a diagnosis, 0 medical history. I mean, the VA has 20 years of documentation about my mental health history. She doesn't have access to any of it. But she went ahead and did a life-changing diagnosis of bipolar without any information. That's kind of frustrating. That's really insidious, actually. Because if I didn't say, okay, wait, so I'm not manic and I'm not depressed, what am I? Oh, you're in the maintenance phase. So I was in the maintenance phase for like a year straight. How am I bipolar? So I'm just normal? So basically bipolar is just being normal from now on, right? So what I did is I stopped taking the medication. And I never flipped. And I still didn't flip. And the flip never happened. And yeah, so it was confirmed by the VA that I'm not bipolar. So they can say whatever they want. No. You know, and it becomes a self-justifying diagnosis. So if you're agitated, you're going manic. If you're a little depressed that day, you're flipping depressed. It becomes justified. Everything you see becomes through the lens of bipolar, right? My therapist was doing the same thing. I for example, like I wanted to be getting through a lot of stuff on one of our sessions, so I'd be talking a little bit faster. You're talking fast, Aaron. You should be taking notes about my mania. It's complete nonsense. Yeah. Okay, so that's basically my mental health history. That's it in a nutshell. PTSD, took a lot of Ambien for a lot of years. Got diagnosed as major depression disorder based off of the drawbacks of the Ambien that I was taking. Basically, the Ambien gave me the major depression disorder, and when I got over the major depression disorder induced by Ambien, that got me diagnosed as bipolar. Your profession. I mean, everything has... How do you... We'll talk about it later. I don't understand how, with me, like if I look at a guy, I'm like, hey, that guy's shot. I can see that. You have to assume. You know what I mean? I don't know how you do it. I mean, I know you can do it because I've seen your receipts, but I don't know how to do it. Right, my victimization. So while I was working for this company called Real America, I started investigating Alex Williamson's framing. My conclusion was that he was framed. I didn't know what happened to him at the beginning. I thought he was killed. So I went to this Chief Olson. And Chief Olson had already gotten what's called well poisoned, that's where a groomer goes to a resource for a victim and poisons the well before the victim gets there. So that when I go to Chief Olson thinks, in his hubris and his conceit, he already knows what's going on. So I get ignored. And I continue to prey upon. So I'm trying to get Chief Olson. Okay, they did something to Alex. He wouldn't tell me anything. He's dismissing me constantly. That's what happens with pig trash. They start dismissing you, and it becomes a dismissal loop. Instead of an OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, and act, it becomes observe, orient, dismiss, and asshole. Observe, orient, dismiss, and asshole. And it becomes this perpetually. And that's how this goes on for 2 years. Because pig trash, their hubris is out of control. These people are they're stupid. And they're stupid. I don't brag about, I'm smarter than most people. I mean, but I don't walk around bragging about it. But if I was an idiot, I wouldn't pretend like I'm smart. So obnoxious. So here's one thing they were able to do. So Jill Johnson does this court case about me stalking her. Again, this is the lady that is engineering me picking her up on Valentine's Day. I don't want to drive around with her on Valentine's Day. She wanted to drive around with me on Valentine's Day. So the reason why you're anonymous. I'm sorry, good people. That's the problem with this. There's 4 years of stuff, or there's 2 years of stuff to go through. So why you're going to stay anonymous? My death threat included the following phrase: that if I continued pursuing them, it'll be dire for me. So their attorney, Macklin J. Henderson, who is a full-fledged member of this grooming gang. He is not an attorney, he's a grooming gang member. I mean, really, Garfield and Hetch for all your grooming gang needs. That'd be an amazing t-shirt. Grooming gang Hetch for all your grooming. I'm going to get one. So from my death threat was reiterated in this. Will be dire for you. That phrase was in my death threat. The phrase willfully and wantonly was in the death threat. And at the end, however, McSwain reserves the right to bring suit against you and any individuals acting in concert with you. So this is a death threat reiteration that also leverages it against anyone who acts in concert with me. So no, these two will be anonymous, and they're going to stay that way, as far as I'm concerned, until you guys say different. You have my word on that, right? So I get started this paperwork about the court case of Joel Johnson. And then a few days later, William Bill Clay's son, who I call Sidehorn, I don't know his first name, flies out from Ohio to the job site. And the two of them distracted me. Bill calls me to the office. He has his son swap out my coffee cup. And I come back and I take a swig off my coffee, and it had cell culture in it. I come down with acute strep. Now, I didn't know acute strep is a very bad illness, because if you don't realize you're sick, all you feel is drained. You don't have any energy. And I was trying to stay on my feet so that I can continue working and take care of this nonsensical talking. I didn't think it'd be anything, because William Bill Clay is supposed to have my back, because he's seen that she's pursuing me. Now, Bill slipped up on something, and he didn't drop. He dropped the mask before I left Real America. So that basically, yes, I am part of a criminal organization that has been screwing with you. That's not exactly what he said, but that was the gist of our conversation. So I had him, okay, what did you see for this, to call him as a witness? Well, so he wrote up this thing, and he's detailing two things here that she did. Now, this is mostly true. Yes, he was there when she would drive past me, and hello, Aaron, and he witnessed it, and he wrote it down here. But I knew there'd be a something. When he got on the stand, it wouldn't be that. It'd be, oh, he said this, or he's doing this. It wouldn't be the fact and verifiable stuff that I witnessed. She asked for a protection order. I'm trying to get away from them. But the protection order ain't protection. It just ain't, And I was trying to get away from them. It doesn't work that way. So a few days before, they doused me with strep. And I'm going to work. And there's a day where I just can't stay on my feet anymore. I don't have any energy. I'm sick. I don't realize that I'm bacterial sick. I thought I had a cold or something. So I go home. And I'm lying in bed. I am on my back. I am weak as a kitten. And I hear a bang on my bedroom window. I knew who it was. By that time, I had figured out that this is a criminal organization. And I had knew, because I had already done some investigating. I knew that Jaime lived 5 doors away from me. I knew he was part of the criminal organization. I knew he was second in charge of this criminal organization. He is second only to Frank McSwain Jr. So I know who was banging on my window. So I pulled my sidearm off my nightstand, and I tried my damnedest to get outside and brain pan that little shit. And I almost passed out from the exertion of just trying to defend my property. So I went back inside, I got my car keys, and I drove myself to Rifle Police Department, where I was told by pig trash that my options were leave or ambulance. Well, I can't stay home. I'm too weak to defend myself. They're coming onto my property. This is how this stuff gets out of hand. The hubris of these police officers. They're oath breakers. They ain't cops. Don't get it twisted. No societal loss, none whatsoever. Look, when I start talking about this stuff, all right, we'll get worked up because I wrote letters for 2 years about these people. I have caught them multiple times coming into my home when I'm not there. Every time I try to get a job, there's a couple people where I try to get a job where I interviewed with one guy. He's like, no, yeah, next week, you know what? I'll have a welcome packet for you, take you on, yada yada. Call him back, hey, change your plans. We're not hiring you after all. His assistant spilled the beans. Shay Sweeney called them and said, oh my God, I heard that Aaron Spivey was going to work for you. He is such a slime ball. He's stalking Jill Johnson, my best friend. So they were constantly deflecting me away from employment. I'm done with this shit. If I'm at jury trial, let's have a jury trial. I have identified all 9 of them as Grooming Gang. So has he and his investigators. I see no reason why smoking them and having a jury trial is a bad plan. I think that's the system. Maybe that's the solution to the grooming gangs. They're so good at keeping the police from getting between the groomer and the victim. Maybe it's a citizen solution. Smoke them and we have a jury trial. Why not? Well, what other option is there? Peace? What? Run? I've tried peace. 2 years of writing letters. Proving that framing should have been what set me free. Because it's not me. It's him. It's a third party. I investigated a third party and I proved it evidentiary that he was framed. They have no excuse. None whatsoever. But it does come a point. It is true. The Constitution is framed in a way that we can have jury trials. That's how it works. If the lawman, well, there ain't no lawman around here other than him, retired law. If the lawman is incapable of protecting the citizen, then the citizen can just take care of themselves in a jury trial. No problem whatsoever. Now, final message, Marshall. I have proven this evidentiary. Okay? This is grooming. Again, I wasn't calling it grooming. They called it grooming. They are the ones who said this is a grooming gang. And yet they are not clearing this young man's name. So when I went to Rifle PD, and I was sick with acute strep, and I'm told ambulance or leave. That's my only options. I wanted them to please document what these people are doing and who they are. That way, if they kill me, at least you know who to arrest. That's all I wanted. Can't even get that. What we need as a society is what I'm calling the right to document. The lawman cannot know if what the lawman is looking at is grooming or not. Because groomers always act below the threshold of intervention by society or the law. They're always right underneath it. The victim eventually realizes they keep it's always this with them. So that when the victim goes to the law, we can't do the believe all women thing because Elizabeth Holmes exists. Remember, she's the one that defrauded 1.5 billion, I think, from that non-medical invention she had. So that isn't what we need. Is the right to document. Because if I was able to document everything that I've been trying to get them to document for the past 2 years, not only, Brendan Bolton, by the way, can get arrested at any time. I mean, he framed Alex Williamson. The motive is public information, Crestwood, laid-in condo, asbestos scam. Look it up yourself. Call the Crestwood. Ask him. The Crestwood, by the way, their position is yes. McSwain Builders did do an asbestos scan. As to Alex being framed, that's just a conspiracy theory. That's their official position. So there's their motive. Crestwood that's their position, that yes, the motive exists. I feel like Jonathan, 5 minutes. We need the right to document. The lawman cannot know. And when you have nothing but pig trash like we got in this valley, nothing but pig trash, top to bottom, no exceptions. They'll dismiss it just because. They don't need a reason to dismiss it. We cannot permit them to be the gatekeepers for documentation. Because if this was documented, I would be able to show Frank McSwain Jr.'s hacking of my system, which I tried to talk to them about it. Brennan Bolton kept on trying to get at my life, demanding that I trust him. Shay Sweeney threatened me on my job site. Jill Johnson harassing me on my job site. Them coming into my home whenever the hell they want. All of that would be there. Then it goes from Brendan Bolton getting arrested for framing Alex Williamson, which is fact and verifiable, I did the investigation myself, to all 9 of them being arrested. That's not going to happen. So good people. Alex Williamson's framing is evidential. His name will be cleared. I don't care how high I have to stack them. It will be cleared. I don't. And when it does, 1 gets you 9. How do you defend yourself from these people? Have no social service contact, have no economic service contact, and have no trust. If those 3 things are not, if they don't have one of those 3 things, they cannot cause you harm. Grooming, what it does is it abuses trust. Now, Marshall, I'm going to go camping for the next 3 days. I'm going to take my kid camping. I'm giving up my house. I'm just walking away from it. I stopped paying on it. Why am I paying for a house that's going to frame? All they're going to do is either kill me in it or frame me with it. And they've already taken stuff out of my house that they might have already framed me. About a week after my interview with that pig piece of shit Poland, just pig trash is all that dude is. Pig trash. He says, yes, we understand they threaten your life. Yes, 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 yes. No, you can't do anything, and no, we aren't doing anything. Unacceptable. No, I most certainly can do something. And Marshall, you don't have to, the investigation's been done twice. They have investigated it, I have investigated it, and they just won't admit it. You know what they told me? They told me, we will call you and tell you yes or no if he was framed. They never called. So Marshall, I'm going to go camping on the 4th day. I'm going to get out from under this and we can have a jury trial. Totally cool with it. I don't have to worry about people getting in my way. All there was big trash anyway. So what are you going to do? So yeah, I'm going to, people keep on telling me this is a me thing because they don't want to either believe me or they don't have any interest in doing their job. All they are is duty felon, operating pig trash, top to bottom, no exceptions. And yeah, so I'm going camping. And maybe you guys will hear me on the news in 4 days. I don't know. We'll see. Or his name can get cleared. That'd be easy. The investigation's already been done. You just got to compel this guy to say he was framed. Alex Williamson will need your protection in the meantime, please, Marshall. Thank you for your time, everybody. And I might make another video. We'll see. I've never done social media. This is literally my first social media post ever. Thank you for your time.